Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I make my version of a Goan style Tisreo Sukhem recipe. What this is clams or pipis on the half shell, and they're stir fried with beautiful hearty spices to make a really quick and easy side dish. For those of you who've never worked with pipis or clams before, I'm going to show you how I process them before I can cook them. Now, in today's instance, I've used a pack of frozen pipis. You can use fresh pipis as well. Now, for today's recipe, you can also cook the pipis whole. So you just rinse them under running water a couple of times and they're ready to go into the dish. And as soon as they open, you know that they're done. But we've always cooked them like this on the half shell. It's easier to scoop up those juices from the pan and that little gravy that absolutely makes the dish. So I'm going to show you how I clean my pipis. I've basically rinsed them under running water and I've drained them a couple of times, and now I've got them sitting in a bowl of water at room temperature. And you can see that by putting them in the freezer, the shells have slightly opened up, which makes them really easy to clean. Now, traditionally in Goa, this is done over a stool style coconut scraper. I don't have one of those, so I'm just going to use a knife. Please be careful when you're using the knife. I just slit the knife in the opening to split the shell open, and then using my hands, just like you can see here, you twist the shell apart and it comes apart really easily. So what you've got is that beautiful clam meat or the Tisreo meat on the half shell, and the other shell is absolutely clean. You can discard the empty half of the shell. You will also find that when the shells have opened up, you don't even need to run the blade of the knife between the shell halves. You'll just be able to twist them open and they'll come apart fairly easily. Just make sure that you're draining the water from the shell before you set them aside. And like this, I'm going to go ahead and process the rest of the shells. Now, once you have cleaned your shells, the rest of the recipe is really simple and comes together in a few minutes. I'm going to leave you the link to the complete recipe down in the description box below so that it's easy for you to follow. And before we start, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Once you do, also please click on that little bell icon right next to it so that you get notified every time a new video gets uploaded. On to the recipe. Heat a large pan over some medium-high heat. I'm using some coconut oil today. You can use whatever cooking oil you have on hand. I've got about a tablespoon of coconut oil here. Once the oil has heated, I'm going to add in half a teaspoon of black mustard seeds. Do this carefully and stand back because the seeds will sputter and tend to jump out of the pan. You don't want to burn yourself when that happens. Now, once they start sputtering, I'm going to add in a few curry leaves, about 6 to 8 fresh curry leaves. Add a couple of chillies that I've cut into large chunks like this. Stir them around to get the oil nice and aromatic. And into the pan goes about 4 cloves of garlic. I've just lightly bruised them. You can just lightly pound on it using your mortar and pestle. For sourness, I'm going to add a piece of kokum. Kokum is a souring agent that is very commonly used in the Maharashtra and Goa coastal section, the Konkan coastal section of India. It's easily available in any Indian grocery store. If you don't have access to kokum, that's fine. We will be using tomatoes in any case for this recipe. You can just use a little more at that point. I seem to have lost a little bit of the clip where I've added the onions, but all I've done is to the pan I've added about 1.5 medium onion. You can use 1 large onion if you'd like as well. I've chopped that up and added it to the pan, and I'm going to saute this mix now until the onions have softened and they get a little bit of coloring around the edges. Keep stirring at frequent intervals so that it doesn't burn off. Once the onions have developed a little color, we can start adding our spices. I'm starting off with about a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric powder, half a teaspoon of Kashmiri chili powder. This is a mild chili powder which is known for its color and its vibrance, and 1 heaped teaspoon of coriander powder. I'm going to stir that to make sure that it mixes through with the onions and the other spices really well. And I'm going to add just a tiny splash of water, maybe about a tablespoon of it, to deglaze the pan and to prevent the spices from burning as they cook. Once you've done that, you can add 1 tomato that has been chopped up. Stir that through to mix it up well. And at this stage, add a little salt to taste. I find that these shells don't need too much of salt, so start with a little and add more if you need towards the end. Stir the salt through as well. And you're now ready to add your clams or tisreos or your pipis, whatever name you know them by. You will notice that there's a little liquid from the water and the juices from the shell that are also in that little bowl. I've added that to the pot as well, and I'm just going to now stir it through to make sure that the spices coat all of the shells. Let the shells cook off in these spices for about 30 seconds to a minute. And after about a minute, I add just a couple of tablespoons of water to the pan. Remember, you don't need too much of water because the shells cook off really fast. Stir that all through to mix it up well. You can see the beginning of a nice little masala starting to form in the pan. You will have noticed that the water comes to a boil almost instantly. So at this point, you're ready to pop a lid onto the pan, and the shells take about 5 to 6 minutes or thereabouts to cook, depending on the size of the shells. You're going to lower the heat and leave it to cook. Now, about halfway through the cooking process, so about 2 to 3 minutes in, carefully open the pan up and give everything a good stir. At this point, you will be able to monitor the level of liquid in the pan as well. I see that I've got plenty, so there's nothing to worry about. But if you find that your mix is a little too dry, add in maybe another tablespoon or so of water at this stage and stir it through. I've got a lot of liquid in there, so I'm just going to cover the pot and let it cook for another couple of minutes or so, or till the shells are almost cooked. Again, about 2 to 3 minutes later, I know my shells are now ready. I still find that the water in there is a little too much for my liking. So I'm just going to cook this on a higher heat, uncovered, to dry up some of that water. Now, while the shells are finishing off, check for seasoning and adjust the salt if needed. And at about this stage, I'm going to add some grated coconut. Now, I like a little bit extra coconut in with my tisreos. You can use as much or as little coconut as you'd like. I've got here about 1/4 cup's worth of grated coconut. I'm going to stir that through. Now you will notice that the coconut tends to absorb a fair amount of the liquid, so keep that in mind when you're adjusting the amount of gravy or liquid in the pan. Stir the coconut through and allow it to take in all of those spices and the curry in the pan. And I'm just going to let this cook for about another minute or so to warm that coconut through and let everything come together. So about a minute later, I see that the liquid is at just the right level that I like. Again, you can cook this to a consistency that you prefer. This is how we like it, with a little bit of masala. Tiny bit of liquid still left in the pan so that it's easy to reheat if needed. You can now turn the heat off and your shells are ready to serve. And that's it, guys. This is my version of a Sukhem Tisreo recipe. I hope you liked this recipe. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with family and friends that you think might enjoy this. I hope you have the opportunity to give this recipe a try. If you do, let me know what you think of it. That's all from me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching today. I'm going to see you really soon with another delicious recipe. So till then, take care. Bye.